Hi, welcome to Glenohumeral Gurus, a podcast for clinicians with an interest in shoulder pathology. I'm your host, Margie Olds, and it's a pleasure for me to bring you these podcasts. The aim for the podcast is to deliver some clinically relevant content for you. I plan to interview people from all over the globe and talk to clinicians and researchers and anybody with an interest in shoulder pathology so that we can learn how to help these people better. So settle in and enjoy the podcast. Hey, it's my great pleasure to welcome Kevin Cuppins to the Glenohumeral Gurus podcast to talk all things swimmers' shoulders. It's great to connect with you, Kevin. We've struggled a little bit with our time zones, haven't we? But it's great to finally get you here on my computer. So wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you, Margie. It's my absolute pleasure. And just to let you know, I've already learned a lot from your podcast, from all the other Glenohumeral Gurus, and yourself, obviously. So I'm really looking forward to this chat.
We've had some amazing clinicians and researchers on, haven't we? And it's been such a great learning experience for me as well. So I'm really enjoying that. So I look forward to talking to you around some of the research that you've done and your clinical experience in this space. Can you share your journey with the audience, with the listeners? Tell us about you and how you got to be where you are with elite swimmers.
Okay, good. I will try to make it a little bit brief. So maybe the journey starts when I was 8 years old. So I started my own swimming career. Never made any international tournaments or something, but I became interested in the sports. It became my passion, and I remember when I was 16. I think I was 16. I had a severe shoulder injury, which kept me out of training for a few months. Also around that time, I had my first girlfriend, and she also had some shoulder issues. And in her team, there was this shoulder physio doing all kinds of special things with the shoulder, and so probably that made her better. I didn't know. But there started to well to for me gaining some interest in physiotherapy, shoulders, swimming already at that age.
Yes.
So then in Belgium, typically when we get 18 years of age, we choose a little bit of career direction. So I went to university, started physio school. It's a university degree in Belgium. So it was a 5-year program.
Wow.
And let's say from one came another. After graduation, I started working in a private practice. But I did some postgraduate sports physiotherapy education, and there I had to do some internships. So I just ticked the head coach of national swimming on his shoulder and just asked him to whether or not he could use like a student physio, working a little bit with or around the team. And that's how my journey in swimming started, I think already back in 2005, 2004, 2005.
Yeah, wow.
So then my role was sometimes a bit more in swimming, sometimes a bit less, always combined it with my private practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2009, I started a little bit of an academic career, which ended up doing a PhD in 2012. And that's where my special interest in shoulder started growing. So we did a nice project on chronic shoulder pain, which was directed firstly towards an athletic population, where my swimmers came up again.
Yes.
And well, that's how direction followed, and it's now it's 2 years and a half that I'm like half-time employed in the National Swimming Federation, working with our like elite young swimmers, but also the elite adult swimmers. Of some of them are right now at this even moment at the World Championships in Singapore.
Yes.
And one of them, so we're really happy today because yesterday, one of the girls from our team, she got the silver medal on the 100 butterfly, and it's the first Belgian medal in I think 27 years. So it was a really special occasion. So
That's
yeah,
wonderful, isn't it?
yeah,
Congratulations, because I understand you've been
uh,
working with her now for a number of years. So
yeah. We did,
that's a
yeah,
fantastic achievement for her whole entire team, you know?
yeah, and her especially, she's like a wonderful young lady. Well, making it happen. So
Yeah,
all kudos to this 20-year-old
yes,
female great Belgian swimmer. So
yeah.
I think
Congratulations to her.
even in swim countries like New Zealand and Australia, will be hearing from her.
Yes. Oh, that is wonderful. And I want to dig in maybe a little bit more to some of that expertise during this podcast. But it's so interesting to hear where you came from and really, now over 20 years in elite swimming with that research background as well. You bring such a wealth of information. So it's great to have you talk about this because some of these patients I find difficult to treat in the clinic. Is there any tips you have for clinicians listening around the assessment process? What you think is important that clinicians don't miss when they're assessing swimmers?
Well, first of all, I think we have to always keep in mind that these athletes are also just humans. So I think in every way we assess them, we all know and we all learn about for example, biopsychosocial approaches.
Mm,
I like to reflect much on a model that's called the SCEPS model. It's like some letters combined that help you think about pain, somatic problems, cognitive function, emotions, behavior, motivation of the athlete, and that's just being a human. So athletes approaching as human beings like yourself and me, I think
yes.
that's where we have to start. But they have some specificities. Being an athlete and probably especially being a swimmer.
Hmm.
When we compare swimmers to other overhead sports or like shoulder loading sports is
Yes.
probably a more appropriate name. Um, there is some specificities. So they within their sports they need a lot of uh, mobility,
Mm,
not only from the shoulder region but also from the thoracic spine, from the lumbar spine. The hips should work well. So you have to have a really nice working kinetic chain, but
mm,
also uh, from a flexibility point of view. So I think that's an important way of looking at swimmers.
mm,
Then they're not known for the high amounts of strength that they have to deal with in the water, but I think it's more the amount of revolutions that they do during
mm.
training. Also, in some of the competitions, they do a lot of distances.
Yeah.
But I noted some numbers. So, for example, many of the swimmers, they have two training sessions a day, two swim training sessions a day. They do 10 to 12 kilometers a day, which is thousands of shoulder revolutions.
Yeah.
So I think that's a bit different when compared to some of the trolling sports or some of the racket sports, for example.
And can you explain
Um,
the volume? The volume, because when I've looked, because similarly here in New Zealand, swimmers training twice a day. Often, it seems to be peak through their teenage years,
mhm.
in high volumes. An hour, hour and a half in the water. because of the length to build that endurance base, is that from a physiological standpoint? Because some of these races, they are 50 meters, 100 meters, but
Yeah.
the length of time that it takes is different than a 100-meter runner. That's what I've been trying to understand, the physiological demands. Can you explain that to me, who's not a swimmer?
Yeah, I think first of all, if we compare it with runners, for example, but
Mm-hmm.
that's probably a bit my point of view. But if you compare it to runners or even basketball players or football players, we start running from when we are toddlers. So
Yes,
from
okay.
the age of 1 or 2, we start running. We start building that capacity on running from probably from an efficiency point of view, from a biomechanical point of view, maybe also from a physiological point of view. But when we start swimming, typically it is at a later age. Most of us don't swim at 1 or 2,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't do it during the whole day. So
Yeah, okay.
when we compare running, it's from a biomechanical point of view, it's also related to just walking. Like
Mm.
there is some similarities, but we
Yes.
cannot find direct similarities with the swimming. So I think we need to have some mileage in the swimming pool
Okay.
just to learn to build some efficiency to
Yes.
to get to get one with the water,
Yes.
something like that.
Yes. Because other
Um,
swimming physios I've talked to, they talk about losing that feel of the water. If you
yeah,
are, if your swimmer is out of the pool, just getting that
yeah,
feel back again.
yeah, yeah. It's even so. I remember this season during the winter time, our swimmers had I think they had like 10 days off,
Mm-hmm.
not more than 10 days. And after 10 days, I was with them during the first swimming training, and they were all like completely over the top because they couldn't swim anymore. They
Yeah.
completely lost the feeling. They had the
Wow.
sense of not getting the water right. So
Yeah.
I also very recently I read an interview with Michael Phelps,
Mm-hmm.
and in that interview, he did some statements that even just in the preparation of his Olympic periods, he didn't do any resting days just to make sure to keep on having the feeling with the water. So being one with the water, that's something that's really specific.
Yeah.
I'm not that much of a physiological specialist, but what I know from physiology is that you also need to build up a huge amount of capacity
Mm-hmm.
to to um, to have, for example, a proper recovery after
Yeah.
a very intense set. So there is some need of of building a big capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Probably not when they are 11 or 12. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think so that they have to train like every day 2 times. But well, when you reach like the sub elite level or the elite level,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be a lot of capacity building. So when you look at like at the week program for the swimmers, not all of the swim sessions have a very high intensity. So there is lots of extensive work in which
Mm-hmm.
they just try to find the technique, try to find like the being one with
Yes.
with the water.
Yeah.
And I think when also when you look at current swimming internationally, you see that swimming efficiency
Mm.
is key at the moment. You see a lot of very fast swimmers that are not very muscular, for example. So they're
Mm.
just long and slim. You call it slim,
Yes, yes, yes.
and they have such a huge like technical capacity to have an efficient way of like traveling through the water.
Yes.
Um,
And from a
Yeah,
physio perspective, what's important in improving swimming efficiency? What sort of things do you look for that physically that might be a block to that? Understanding that a lot of that is about technique, but some of that will
yeah,
be physical capacity, what the
yeah,
athlete needs.
absolutely.
And what do you
So
look for?
yeah, I think when you want to build a good technique, you need to um, like you first need to build the hardware before you can drive the
Yeah.
software, something like that.
Yes,
Um,
that's a great
and
analogy.
and so the things that we look at is from a flexibility point of view. For
Mm,
example, you need to have a really good thoracic rotational capabilities, rotation extension.
yes.
Um, the shoulder complex in its totality has to be mobile, has to be a little bit probably over mobile to
Mm,
to to like to have a little bit of too much flexibility, but
yeah.
it will help the swimmer during this amount of revolutions that he or she has to do
Mm,
to make it bearable. Um, uh, so from a flexibility point of view, I think just general very mobile shoulder girdle in the overhead positions, in the AB external rotation positions.
yes.
From a thoracic point of view, lots of rotation extension.
Yes.
Um, and then, well, I don't know if we can call it motor control or whatever, but we have to have some muscular balances that work fine together. You have to have an engaging scapulothoracic joint that works
Mm.
within this kinetic chain. A bit of an odd kinetic chain because there is no ground contact.
Yes.
You're like a loose object in the water.
Yes.
Um, but there is certainly some like kinetic energy that goes through the whole body.
Mm.
Um, and well, the things that from a physio perspective, I find also very difficult, but important to build up. And that's where research also comes in and covers us. It's
Mhm.
that we need to have a very good uh, functioning of the posterior shoulder. So that's one of the that's one of the key aspects. So the shoulder endurance, not
Yes.
so much the basic 1 RM strength. I don't believe in
Yes.
that one very much for swimmers, but the shoulder endurance, the posterior shoulder endurance, that can be a difficult one. For
So you
example, when
mean
you have,
posterior cuff? Sorry to interrupt. Posterior
yeah,
cuff, or are you talking about the entire posterior complex in terms of, the trapezius,
well,
rhomboid, scapula, that,
yeah,
yeah.
when we go specific
Mm.
in certain swimmers, we have seen like a very localized deficit in posterior shoulder cuff functioning from an
Yeah.
endurance point of view.
Okay.
But I think we have to see it as a functioning like chain together.
Unit.
But
Yeah.
if the cuff isn't working very well, the rest will also not be functioning very economically.
Mm.
Um,
And what's your tips then for younger clinicians to measure endurance? Because handheld dynamometry is massive here in New Zealand at the minute.
yeah,
Everybody is measuring rotational torque with their handheld
yeah,
dynamometer and getting one peak output. But you don't think that's so important in swimmers. How are they going to measure that then?
yeah. It can be important to. I think I would use it to like to find an outlier, but I don't think it's very important to have like the points after the comma. Um,
Okay.
so don't get too much into the details on
Yeah,
that. But
okay.
if you have a 1 RM of 2 kilograms, that's probably a bit too uh, too less.
In terms of
like
limb symmetry deficit, you're talking.
no. Just
Just
if you
one.
have, for example, if you test one side and it's only
Yes.
able to push 2 kilograms, that's
Yeah.
probably
Okay. Yes.
that
Obviously.
would be a red flag for me.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
But if you have like a decent amount of force production, that's okay.
Yes. Okay.
Uh, we typically do, like, there is this one test. It's the posterior shoulder endurance test.
Yes. Okay.
Probably different ways of working on it, but we put the swimmer patient, not a patient at that moment, lying, always have difficulties, prone on the belly.
Yeah. Prone.
So
Yeah.
they lie on the belly
Yeah.
with the arms that's on the physio table. The arm is vertical, so it's
Yes.
hanging down. And then we ask the swimmer with a little bit weight, typically
Yes.
it's 2 kilograms, and
Yes.
we do a repeated,
Yes.
like it's kind of an abduction that you were doing, or you can
The
combine it with
horizontally.
abduction and
Yeah.
external rotation.
Yeah.
That's also written in research.
Yes.
And so with the PhD that I was involved with from my colleague Stefan at University
Mhm.
of Antwerp, it showed that from a prospective point of view, if you can do more repetitions, it will be better. So
Okay.
if you do less, you will be more prone to getting a shoulder injury. But there is not like one definitive cutoff point.
Yeah. We shouldn't.
Um,
Okay. Just
no.
more
So
is better.
when I do it with the swimmers,
Mhm.
I make them do it 20 times.
Yes.
Just it's a bit like, okay, let
Yeah,
us
yeah,
start to
blow in
do
the wind.
something.
Which is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I used to do with my push-up claps, you know. I would see
yeah,
these big rugby league boys would come in and
yeah,
I don't know, I just pick a number, and it was
yeah,
20. And maybe it's
yeah,
just a physical capacity issue there, isn't
probably.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but when we see also in those, so typically we do that, for example, whenever you want to do a preseason screening,
Okay.
you do it in the healthy swimmers,
Yes.
but also when you do it in a swimmer that is having some shoulder pain. And if there is a deficit in the shoulder endurance, you will see it way earlier. You will see it at repetition 5 or 6 that he or
Mm,
she is struggling to get the weight
mm,
up.
mm.
Um, and in my perspective, I don't think it's because of the weight, because the 2 kilograms is not
Super
that
heavy.
that difficult.
They want a
But
long lever though, eh? These guys typically have
yeah,
very long levers.
yeah, they have long levers, but they normally they can work with those levers
Yes.
for 2,000 times a day. So
Yes,
that
exactly.
should be not a problem.
Yes.
But I think it is the like kind of the internal resistance from the anterior shoulder that
Mm,
is restricting part of
okay.
that open mobility, that active
Yes.
mobility. So I think both go hand in hand, like the active
Yes.
mobility towards abduction, external rotation, or just external rotation goes together with the functioning of the posterior shoulder or posterior cuff. Um,
Which makes sense, doesn't it? You know,
yeah,
that if you're limited in your range in this way, that then it makes it difficult to get into a
yeah,
range that is so
yeah,
both at a control and a strength issue.
yeah, yeah,
Perhaps. Can you speak to me around range of movement then and what we should be looking for? Because typically, maybe that by the time the swimmers get to my clinic, they have been out of the pool and they aren't swimming anymore. But typically, they are, like you said, increased range of movement. But some other physios I've spoken to talk about loss of internal rotation range after swimming. Can you talk to me about range of movement in swimming and what we should be looking for and what you think's important?
yeah. Well, I think for what's important, like again, from a prospective point of view,
Yes.
there is lots of evidence, but it's a bit conflicting. So
Okay.
it's a bit difficult. There's probably like a window of, for example, external rotation that you should be somewhere between 90 and 100 degrees of external rotation.
Mm.
I think also looking at the swimmers I work with, you see a huge diversity in mobility. Some of the swimmers are a bit less mobile,
Yes.
but they are also not the best movers. So they don't have the best moving or motor control or whatever you want to. They're
Yes.
not
That efficiency that
like,
you talk to,
yeah,
yeah.
it's the efficiency. So I think in some of them, a bit less of mobility will help them because it preserves some energy in keeping all things together, if you know what
Yes.
I mean.
Yes.
But on the other hand, you have I have one lady in particular in my mind. She's very flexible. So she's like when she's moving, when she's doing some warming up exercises, she looks like a dancer.
Yeah.
Um, and she can use her excessive mobility brilliantly when she has everything under a good control. So
Yes.
when she's like in good shape and when she
Yes.
has everything in place,
Yes.
she's like a dancer, swimming very efficiently, very
Yeah.
smoothly,
Yes.
and she uses the excessive mobility in
Yes.
her way to use it.
Yes.
I think from a general point of view, probably um, I'm not sure if there is like an excessive external rotation or a diminished internal rotation. Probably can be.
Yeah. But I think, like you said to in the beginning, first they are people first, eh? Which
Yeah,
present with the way how with
yeah,
everybody's different nuances for the
yeah,
clinicians to assess on an individual basis.
yeah.
There's no typical swimmer, I think is maybe what you're saying, is that?
No, probably, yeah. And you probably also because you have so many degrees of freedom within the water.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
you have many ways of compensating for a little bit of minus there and a plus there and a little bit of minus there and a plus there. You have lots of possibilities.
yes,
But again, from a mobility or flexibility point of view, I think we should be aware of maybe the changes within season. If you
mm-hmm.
see someone like within season having a diminishing external rotation mobility or a diminishing internal rotation mobility,
Yeah,
probably that's something that we should be aware of.
mm-hmm.
And again, if you find some outliers, if you find people that have like only I don't know if you can see it, but
Yeah, I
if
can
you're
see it. Yeah.
in an extended position or in a flexed position, and you cannot reach 180 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
it will be difficult. It will be
Yeah, well, you
difficult to have
can't
a
get
good
to streamline,
swimming
eh?
stroke. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. And
yeah, I
if that's
can.
combined with some excessive rotation deficits, something like that, we should be
Mm,
aware of that. But indeed, they're human first. We have to
yes,
like the NS1, just deal
yes,
with the
with the
one
assessment.
specific in front of you. Yeah,
And so to wrap up, I think for younger clinicians, what do you think it's important that clinicians know about swimming shoulders? And we talked offline about firstly getting them, keeping them in the water is probably one
mm,
of the most important steps, but sometimes that isn't possible or that hasn't happened. In terms of re-entry to swimming and the volumes, what clinical tips have you got for perhaps younger clinicians trying to work in the swimming
yeah.
population?
Well, I think it is really important to have a good communication with the coach, with the
Mm,
swimming coach, because
mm,
there is a direct relation with the thing that they are doing in the water. And
yeah,
typically, as a physio, we're not dealing with that too much,
yeah,
especially if it's like an outpatient
yeah,
setting. So if you're a physio that is not within a swimming center, for example,
Yes.
you probably don't have that direct connection. So it is
Yeah.
very important to have a good communication with the coach and
Mm.
talk with the coach, because there is lots of possibilities to first keep the swimmer in the water. If
Yeah.
they deal with shoulder pain, swimming is not an impact sport, so there's not high impact like you have in probably, I don't know the names, American football or
Yes.
rugby, or
Yes.
the things that you know much more about, and
Yes.
Idel is knowing much more about. But that's not the case in swimming. Swimming,
No.
it's the volume that's probably more key
Yes.
in developing shoulder problems, etc.
Yes.
So if you can bring the volume down
Yes.
just by, for example, changing stroke, if
Mm.
you have if you have lots of problems swimming backstroke,
Mm.
maybe just stop doing backstroke for a while and do
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah. But
Um,
stay in the water and keep that feel.
yeah.
Yeah.
Keep the feel. It's like in every athlete, it's also that part of the sporting the athlete identity that's important. If
Yes.
you take them out of the
Yes.
water, they
Yes.
stop being a swimmer. So
Yes.
if you can keep them in the water, they're
Yes.
still a swimmer. Okay, have some adaptations, and you
Yes.
have to search for robust solutions in the
Mm.
future, but try to
Mm.
keep them in the water. So changing stroke, um, doing less of mileage. Uh, if it's necessary, don't let them work with the arms, but just only do like swimming kicks with the legs, which is
Mm.
very beneficial
Mm.
for future plans.
Yes.
Most of the swimmers have a terrible leg kick capacity. So if they, for one reason or another, are obliged to do 3 weeks of only swimming kicks, they will hate it, but they will
Yes.
get very good in swimming kicks and they will benefit from it. So they can see it as an opportunity
Yes.
future wise. Maybe you have seen some of the hand paddles. So they swim
Yes.
like
Yes.
it's sometimes they use it with small hand paddles, and that's more of a um, technical purposes. But
Mm.
sometimes they have really big hand paddles, and that's kind of a specific strength training.
Yes.
Leave them out if there is a shoulder problem.
Yes.
Like you can do lots of changes, but then you have to communicate very well
Mm.
uh, with 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 the coach.
Yeah.
Um, and don't get scared of a little pain. I
Yeah.
when
Okay.
I so I besides my work at the swimming federation, I also have a private clinic, and sometimes I see swimmers from other regions, and they come to me, and
Yes.
one of the first things I say to them is, if you never wanted to have shoulder pain, you picked the wrong sport.
Yes.
So it's probably it's a bit part of the game,
Yeah. It's
and
very
don't get
prevalent, isn't it? So,
yeah.
yeah.
Don't get too scared with the shoulders. So try
Yeah.
to keep them involved. Try to manage the situation in
Mm.
like decreasing the volume in one way or
Mm.
another. And
Yes.
at that same moment, from a physio perspective, you can start building for a robust solution. If you have like a deficit in the external shoulder rotation, if you have a mobility
Mm.
problem, you can just parallel wise work on
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
and gradually increase the mileage again.
Yes. Yes. Hey, that is wonderful solutions for clinicians to think about for their patients. I think it just gives them great tips to be able to manage what sometimes is quite a complex situation. Do you have any
Yeah.
closing remarks, Kevin? Anything you think is that you wanted to share so that swimmers all around the world had better shoulders? Is
Yeah. Closing. Well, I think as always,
Yeah,
communication is key. Just
yeah,
being human, being a swimmer, being a coach, being a therapist.
yes,
Maybe other people are involved in young swimmers. Typically, the parents, they have a really big deal. So communication is really key.
mm,
Sometimes the swimmers, they have to do the boring stuff, just the trillions of rotator cuff exercises, but you can try to make it a little bit fun.
Yes.
But well, just take care of the shoulders because they need them.
Yes.
They need them very much. They cannot swim without good shoulder capacity. So
Yeah.
that's probably a good role for us as clinicians.
Yeah. Hey, well, thanks very much for your tips. It was great connecting with you. And
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
yeah, that was wonderful. And we have a really exciting project coming up together too, don't we? In September, where I'm coming to Europe, and you're hosting a shoulder course, so we can talk more about this in detail. That will be wonderful.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah, I don't have the exact dates. I think it's somewhere at the end of
End of
September.
September, I've got here,
25,
maybe
26.
26, 27 September.
Yeah,
so
that's the
people
one.
can find access to that online, or maybe I'll put a link in the show notes for people to
would be great.
access that.
It's with Next Academy in Belgium. It's very close to the Dutch border. It's very close to the German border. Even French people,
Yes,
they can travel towards our beautiful country and meet you. So there's still some places left. So yeah, everyone is welcome. Yeah.
That will be great. Cool. Thanks very much.
Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye bye.
As Kevin has mentioned, I'm coming to Belgium on the 26th and 27th of September for a shoulder course that concentrates on shoulder instability and return to sport. So it would be great to see you all there. Kevin has kindly made a 15% discount code that is GH Guru. So if you type this discount code into the Next Academy website, then you'll get a 15% discount. So thanks very much, Kevin. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've really enjoyed this content. You found some clinically useful tidbits, and some of the content has been thought-provoking. Don't forget you can follow me on my social media for some more up-to-date content. If you're looking for a shoulder brace, you can check that out via our shoulder braces on flawlessmotion.com. And if you wanted an online shoulder course, then I have a range of shoulder courses, through from an introductory shoulder course through to return to sport and a shoulder instability course. You can access these courses on margieolds.com or flawlessmotion.com. That's flawlessmotion.com. And every course comes with a complimentary question and answer session, so we can drill into your understanding of the key concepts of the course. You can also join our Facebook group, Glenohumeral Gurus, and follow along for the conversations and discussions on this page. And otherwise, I look forward to you joining us for the next podcast. Thanks for your time. Until then, stay well, take care.